All right. All right. We are here, Personal Trainer Talk. Doug and Corey to answer your questions. It is Wednesday, 2:00 Eastern time. Thank you so much for your questions. And we are excited to get some good information out. Doug, what's going on, big guy?
Oh man, it's great. I heard there was some rain up there today. Is that correct in Atlanta?
Well, it seems like it's been on and off for a few days now. Yeah. Pretty consistent, like on and off. So it can't decide what to do. But because the summer has been a little bit warmer, it seems like, we welcome some of the rain.
I think as I look outside, we might be getting some because the lawn doesn't water itself, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've got this weird scenario where I like to put the air conditioning on really cold, but then I like to wear something that makes me comfortable. It's really odd. Like
I can have my AC at 85 degrees and it's cold.
Yeah. Right? I like it. I like it kind of chilly, but all right. So we've got some questions for personal trainers from all over the place, and we're going to answer those now. If you have a question for Doug and I, you can always email it to info@bodydesignu.com. Or if you see this link, you can click on this link and join us for a live conversation, and we'll bring you in. So we'd welcome that. This is the talk where we want to just simply take your personal training to the next level, no matter what you're doing. If it's, client results that you want to achieve higher, or if it's, simply more revenue, more clients, this is the talk for you. Doug, we've got some questions in. Let's make this thing happen.
You got it. The first question comes from Leola Coates from Chicago, Illinois. Leola. This is a great question. I don't think we've ever heard this one before. Do you recommend chiropractors to your clients?
It's funny. That is a great question.
Great question.
And Doug, I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that too. But this is what I found. Okay, and this is something I literally dove into. I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago. And this is simply where I have opened up a personal training studio right next door. For the last 19 years, there's a physical therapy clinic. And I had a lot of clients that were dealing with low back pain, knee pain, injuries, whatever. And I wanted to deepen my understanding of the workarounds and training around injuries. So I went into this clinic for an extended period of time. This is years ago, and shadowed some of the physical therapists there for a while. So whenever I wasn't training clients, I would go over there and kind of shadow. And I learned a lot. And what I learned, and so the questions kept coming up from the clients about chiropractor. So then I decided to look into both the physical therapy that they were doing in that clinic, and then also chiropractic care. And this is what I found in general, is that really good physical therapists practice somewhat similar to chiropractors. And good chiropractors practice somewhat like good physical therapists. So, in all the meetings that I had, and I actually did a little segment about this on CNN, where we were talking about the difference between physical therapy and chiropractic care. I think the trouble that the chiropractic industry has ran into, or the challenge, is that you've got some chiropractors out there that practice in a way that, or their beliefs are such that, they believe like chiropractic care can cure a cold. And, and the founder of one of the largest chiropractic schools in the nation, Life, happens to be based here in Atlanta or Marietta, Georgia. And they, the professor that founded this place 100 years ago, however long ago, would say that, like, literally, like, you can cure mental illness and all kinds of disease with chiropractic care. So that obviously is a challenge, but the ones, as far as their practice, that's what I found, the ones that practice similar to really good physical therapists and vice versa. So I think if you find a good chiropractor, you could be in really good hands, and vice versa. I generally, and this is my general rule of thumb, when a client has an injury, I'm going to refer them to a physical therapist first for an evaluation, not a chiropractor. That's just what I've done. And I'm sure that there's some really good chiropractors that can do a really good assessment evaluation, but I tend to refer to physical therapists. So that's my take and thought on it. Mr. Blake, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, that's a really good question. You can spend a lot of time I could just give you story after story. I've been involved in this, for decades. And if you had asked me this question when I first started training people a couple of years ago, I would have said probably not. Only because at the time when I first started training people, we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, chiropractic itself had some deficits and some problems associated with it, because the practitioners themselves perhaps were not the most educated when it came to the actual true scientific medical part of what we now see. So when you ask me today, with the chiropractors that I know, that I've either been to, that I know actually practicing, the answer is yeah, probably yes. And like you said, you've got to know the individual. And in fact, my older daughter just went to one down here in Port St. Lucie, and demonstrated what we now see in chiropractic, which is a sort of a melding of the medical apparatus that we know about, with the idea that there are some benefits to the manipulation of the spinal column to deal with the sort of the paradigm of what chiropractic looks to, which is essentially neurological communication of organs and other parts of the body. So with that said, look, we deal with science. If you can't prove to me cause and effect with research, then I'm going to say, no, you can't cure cancer with chiropractic. And I've heard it, and you've heard it, and you know this, but it is a great benefit as one recovery modality.
Yeah.
And you're right. And because I've had chiropractors that worked for me at the wellness center that I ran many years ago, and they basically did what physical therapists do, or they worked in. So yeah, I mean, as long as that individual, I've dealt with sports chiropractors, and the first thing they do is an X-ray.
Yeah. Who are you going to recommend? Like if a client has if a client's got a knee pain or back injury, who are you going to send them to?
In today's day and age, the first person I would ever recommend them to is, first you go to your PCP, your primary care physician. But here's the deal, is that many people nowadays, they don't have primary care. So I tell them, you need a primary care physician, but here's the difference.
Right.
I would recommend a DO versus an MD. That's my personal opinion. And a DO is a doctor of osteopathy or osteopathy. So a DO is a medical practitioner that essentially is a chiropractor. So imagine a chiropractor goes to chiropractic school, but then goes to medical school. For the most part, that's essentially what it is. And so it's the 21st century. It's 20. What year is?
I'll tell you a funny story about and just know that, chiropractors out there are great. I mean, there's a lot of great chiropractors, but so I don't want to give any of them a bad name. And I know that they do a lot of good work and a lot of people swear by chiropractors. So just know that. But I met with this chiropractor one time in South Florida in a Gold's Gym. He had a clinic set up, and he was known as Dr. Crack Crack. Everyone called him Dr. Crack Crack. It was the funniest experience I had ever really had observed in a doctor type scenario, medical type scenario. Right. I walk into the room, okay, because he kept coming and seeing, hey, come down, let's get an adjustment, come down, see me. So I went down there to see him, Dr. Crack Crack. And he's like, hey, man, good seeing you. I'm so glad you made it in. He's like patting me on the back, like literally, hey, let's get this adjustment done. So I lay down, he does the adjustment. I'm not even done yet. And he's like, you feel much better, don't you? You feel so good. It feels good, doesn't it? It feels so good. And I'm like, is this is this a joke right now? Like, am I getting punked? And so before you would even get off of his table, he would be like, man, you feel so good, don't you? You feel good. And I'm like, holy cow, this is really kind of, an experience.
And my answer to the question is that in today, it's 2022. Chiropractic is quote different than it was when I first experienced them. Why? Because they have changed. They have generally changed their practice and modalities, and there's no chiropractor today that I know personally or have used personally that does not initially first right off the bat do an X-ray. Why? Right? Why would you not?
Yeah.
And I've had some very, very good, very knowledgeable chiropractors who understand the neuromuscular skeletal system and know exactly this and this to do, and are very effective at it. I've had chiropractors that I had one guy who never even adjusted me. He said, you don't need an adjustment. You need A, B, C, and D. And I'm like, oh, whatever. And he what he was? He was a power lifter.
Wow. So he
was down in West Palm Beach, by the way.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So anyhow, that's a great question. Hopefully that was helpful. And that gives you our perspective on both physical therapy and chiropractic care, both very beneficial. And we thank the professionals out there that are really good. So
absolutely.
All right. What do we got up next?
Are you ready?
Yes. So what do we got?
This is from Brian Morris from Augusta, Georgia. Okay. How important is street visibility for my training facility? I've got a few options on spaces, and one is not visible at all from the street. So how important is street visibility for my training?
Look, if you can pick a space, this is a guy that's looking for a space for a studio,
training
right?
Facility, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can have a space that has it, by all means, having street visibility is going to help significantly. However, if you could find a space for much less rent and it's still a very nice space, class A or B, then it's not required. Most of all of our clients today are coming through the internet. So they're not finding us by driving by. They're not driving by and seeing a sign for personal training and saying, oh, wow, I want to hire a personal trainer. It's such a small percentage of the population. So I say, like, if it's available and the rent is comparison, then great. But let me give an example. And I've done this before, is that let's just, for number's sake, let's keep it real simple. I'm going to say that you're looking for a studio. It's going to cost you $5,000 a month. Okay. Rent. It could be all over the board, depending on where you are. If you're in a big city, little town, but let's just use this easy number of 5,000. Let's just say that on a street view, good traffic, there's basically, it's going to cost you about 5,000, but you find something off the beaten path and it's going to cost you 3,000, but it's the same quality of building. So 5,000 versus 3,000. So then all you're doing is deciding, is the $2,000 a month going to make a difference and bring me that much more revenue? Or if I rented the space or mortgaged the space that basically is $3,000 a month, and I spent that extra $2,000 that I was going to spend over at this place on rent, I spent it on ads, would that bring me more business? And today, the answer is yes, every day of the week. So if you have the option of spending 5,000 street view, thinking that you're going to get walk-in traffic because of that nice space, versus 3,000 for the same quality of building and space, I would highly recommend going with the 3,000 that's off the beaten path, spending that additional $2,000 on Facebook and Google ads and driving traffic that way. People don't mind. And if they're in the same radius, let's just say they're both in the same, 5 mile, 3 mile radius, whatever it is, just one's off the beaten path without car traffic, then that's what I would recommend. However, sometimes we're finding that you can get street traffic at $3,000 and off the beaten path is still $3,000. Well, then that's a no-brainer, because you're going to get, maybe a couple people a month that inquire from driving by. And then basically, and when I say a couple people a month, literally signups versus, none. So at the end of the day, it's a no-brainer, but it's really a math decision, and you just kind of decide on, and traffic count matters too. So if you say, for example, whenever I go to look at a space, I would look at it and I'd say, okay, basically, what is the traffic count for this road? Because even if you have street view, but it's the type of road where there's only 5,000 cars a day, well, that's not going to do anything. And that sounds like a big number, but it's not. I've got a personal training facility right now for the last like 19 years in the same space that's got 34,000 cars a day that drive by it. And so we do get business from it. We have a sign right out front, and we drive traffic in, and we do get customers that sign up by driving by. However, if I move that like a mile away off the beaten track, and basically my rent was 75%, I would take that extra 25% and I would put it in ads, and likely I would get the same, if not more, customers than I got from the street view. So that's something to consider, but that's a great question. I hope that helps.
You ain't going to be wearing no suit out front, are you? Like a rabbit suit or something?
Dude, we've done all kinds of crazy things. We bought a muscle suit one time. We did. We bought a muscle suit and stood in front of the gym in a muscle suit. It was the funniest thing. It was just like this big, ridiculous. We've had signs. We've stood out there with signs that had an arrow pointing in. Right now, we actually have a sign out in front of the studio with an arrow pointing in that literally says, "Do you want to lose, body fat in the next 6 weeks?" And we changed it out, and it gets business. So I do believe in drive-by, but it's got the math and everything's got to really work out. Sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes it is. So I hope that was helpful to you. Just, you just got to consider the difference in cost. And then if you take that difference and apply it to ads, how many customers can you get? Let me give you some help. Generally speaking, throughout the US right now, we're seeing client acquisition costs around $500, give or take. City, much higher. Podunk, much lower, but right around $500. So let's just say the space that you're looking for costs you $1,000 more for that street view. Is that traffic going to give you 2 customers a month? If not, you took that $1,000 in rent, put it on ads, you would likely get 2 customers a month. So food for thought. Hope that helps.
Dude, you just cut into like all of our time.
I'm sorry.
I'm not even sure, but we're going to do it anyway.
Let's give it a shot.
Should I operate as a sole proprietorship or LLC? This is from Wayne in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sole proprietorship or LLC? Which one?
Yeah, great question. So it really depends, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to recommend an LLC because a lot of times, something turns into something. And if it turns into something, I'd rather you set it up from the beginning, and there's not a big difference. There's not a big cost difference in doing this. It provides you a little layer of protection between the customer and you is your LLC versus the sole proprietorship. It's directly you. So for that reason, I would recommend the LLC. And for the second reason is that if you do turn it into something, meaning you open up a studio, a physical location, or you open up multiple, you've got your LLC set up, and it makes it easier versus then going in a year after having a bunch of customers, switching everything over, setting it up. I generally recommend for somebody that's going all in to start their own business and wants to do it right, set up an LLC, get the insurance on the LLC, get the coverage, set up a bank account for the LLC, get a merchant account for the LLC, keep it all in the LLC name, keep you separate of that. That's my recommendation. Guys, thank you so much for these questions. We really appreciate it every week. If you have a question, comment the question below, and we will do our best to answer it on next week's or a future, podcast here. But thank you again. We hope you have an awesome week. Doug, any last words of wisdom?
Man, just go out and get it. Go out and get it. Open that training business. Do what you got to do to start making things happen.